Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel's What If Episode 7, What If Thor Were an Only Child, and Rex Midgard and dances on ashes and steals Zemo's moves without inviting him. This whole party episode was packed with cameos and references to the Marvel films, so I'm gonna break it down frame by frame for everything you might have missed. So we open in the New Mexico desert, the same opening shot of the first Thor film. Interesting how we don't see the Watcher in the stars here. Many other episodes opening shots of the sky embed Uatu among the stars, but not here, for as we will see, this supposedly omnipresent Watcher does have some blind spots. Jane Foster's computer shows the same Van Allen radiation belts around the globe that Erik Selvig's computer showed in the movie. Selvig is not with them here though, so this must be a different outing, one thankfully without Kenneth Branagh's random tilted angles. Natalie Portman returns as Jane along with everyone, aside from Brie Larson, the Warriors 3 actors, and Rene Russo as Frigga. But like the Doctor Strange episode, which I believe was a prelude to Multiverse of Madness, this cast could have been lured into this episode as a prelude to Thor Love and Thunder. Jane reports,
I need to talk to the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. because if my data is correct, I believe an alien invasion is imminent. And 2 years ago, the same anomaly struck star Alpha Icarus, and the entire star dimmed and then poof, disintegrated.
Jane already knows what S.H.I.E.L.D. is here, and she jumps to the conclusion of it being an alien invasion, but back in the Thor film, she had never heard of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Miss Foster, I'm Agent Coulson with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Is that supposed to mean something to me? S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever they are.
So this version of Jane might have discovered previous evidence of extraterrestrial life that got her on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar sooner. She mentions the star Alpha Icarus explosion that was 2 years prior, which we later learned was one of Thor's past ragers.
Alpha Star, now that was an excellent party.
Did you really destroy that planet?
No, it was more of a meteor anyway, not a planet, and it was burning apart, so we just kind of helped it along and...
So no one got hurt?
No, of course not. Even the baby goat Gary got home safely. Eventually.
Icarus was the figure from Greek mythology who flew too close to the sun so that his wax wings melted and he burned and died in the ocean, similar to the Alpha Star Icarus burning meteor that Thor laughs off here. But Thor, in a way, faces his own Icarus-like hubris, trying to coast above it all, but comes crashing down to reality in the closing moments. We never get a firm answer as to what exactly went down on Alpha Star, or what Thor meant by that goat getting to safety eventually, but maybe Surtur helped them burn it faster, and the whole experience is actually super traumatic for all of its people and its goats. Their star chart shows constellations including Ursa Minor, which was mentioned by Jane in the film as being missing, signaling an astronomical realignment that linked Earth with Asgard.
Look, what do you see?
Stars.
Yeah, but not our stars. See, this is the star alignment for our quadrant this time of year, and unless Ursa Minor decided to take a day off, these are someone else's constellations.
But here, Ursa Minor is visible, meaning Thor's arrival wasn't the result of Odin's banishment, but Thor's chosen party destination while Odin was in Odin's sleep. The Bifrost overshoots them.
They're here.
We're too late.
Darcy, of course, referencing Carol Ann's creepy line in Poltergeist.
They're here.
They land on the Vegas Strip in front of a casino that looks like the Bellagio, but the Bellagio isn't beside the Luxor and the Excalibur like this casino is here, and that's because all these casinos were slightly altered visually because there's a copyright law that requires a license fee to recreate these landmarks in animation. The Bifrost hits in front of an Elvis impersonator. Holy moly! Now, this same Elvis later marries Darcy and Howard the Duck, and even later there is a Skrull Elvis, meaning this Elvis might have been one of those Earthbound Skrulls the whole time, a reminder that many among our society are Skrulls. We got a secret invasion, baby. There's also a guy with a pineapple shirt, which might be a nod to Taika Waititi's Pineapple Romper at Comic-Con 2017. They kick off the party as Uatu observes,
more than battles won or lost, it's relationships that truly define a hero. The people who shaped them, their stories.
As he looks down at the city, all those lit streets makes it look like for a second he's watching them through a broken pane of glass, reminiscent of the barrier that he moved to the other side of when he didn't help Strange Supreme, and he turns away from all of this toward the stars, but missing what's going on down below. Just another example of how he doesn't always have his eye on the ball. Then a slideshow shows Thor and Loki's relationship, including young Loki playing a trick on Thor using the casket of ancient winters to freeze him, Odin holding baby Loki as he does in the film, except instead of crying, this cute baby Loki smiles. This maybe being the true Nexus point, because Odin would realize that this child doesn't need his Asgardian warmth. It's also interesting how Loki later shows up as a frost giant when he was supposed to be the runt of his family. So essentially this Loki variant was born as a truer, sturdier frost giant. Also notice here how they already cover Odin's eye with an eye patch, whereas in the movie it had just been ripped out in the battle. Frigga lulls Odin into Odin's sleep with the singing choir of her fellow witches, like the choir who accompanied Loki's play in Ragnarok. But it's interesting here, they're clearly just trying to make him fall asleep faster so they can have some wine time. Also, Thor sits bedside, totally uninterested, which is exactly where Loki was sitting in the film, because Thor's kind of the jerk of this story. In Odin's vault, they pass the Infinity Gauntlet, reminding us of how in the first Thor film, there was that prop Infinity Gauntlet added to the background with all 6 stones already in it, but they were in a different arrangement. Later, Marvel, of course, retconned that gauntlet as fake, but that was a right-handed gauntlet. This one is the same left-handed gauntlet with the correct stone placement that Thanos assembles in Infinity War. Now, yes, the blue space stone should still be inside the Tesseract at this point in the timeline. The Reality Stone should still be hidden with the Ether. The gauntlet itself wasn't forged by Eitri until years later, etc., etc. But I think the idea is that Marvel put a new fake gauntlet in the vault, the way that What If has retconned a lot of Phase 1 appearances of people like Rhodey and Bruce Banner. They're also retconning the appearance of that Phase 1 fake Infinity Gauntlet. Thor drains and smashes the mug just as he does at the diner in the Thor film.
Another!
Volstagg parties with a couple familiar faces, including a Ravager and a woman with this elaborate face paint and hair. We actually saw this kind of design on various partiers on Sakaar and Ragnarok. There's this hooded masked figure. We saw people like this milling around Sakaar and Ragnarok. We also see several Skrulls and Yondu, and a member of the Sovereign from Guardians Volume 2. Thor hugs Scourge from Ragnarok.
Thunder hug! Oh, yeah! Here, have a drink. It never runs out. You try to drink it all, but you can't because it's magic!
He's recalling Doctor Strange's magically refilling beer in Ragnarok. The ships that beam down are mostly ones that we've seen in the Collector's Vault in Episode 2, but were originally seen in the Grand Master's garage in Ragnarok, including that one with the circular window with the wings that fold up, and then the simple cube-shaped one. There's also a few Asgardian Viking boats that we saw as part of Loki's fleet in Episode 3, and some Kree warships like the Dark Aster. Thor uses Skrulls to exhibit his narcissism, and as Jane notices them, he does that sexy hair toss that he did in Episode 3. Darcy expected there to be lasers and flying cows, maybe referencing the Destroy All Humans game series, and then the references just keep coming.
I expected him to look more like...
Like what, E.T.? Unless like a Hottie McScotty? Beach Buddy Ken? Old school Abercrombie catalog?
Of course, referencing E.T. and Scotty from Star Trek. They use First Contact as a euphemism, referencing the 1996 Star Trek film.
You can make first contact with, I don't know, that guy. He looks like a loser.
Big talk coming from a brunette.
Howard the Duck was actually talking to a blonde when we saw him partying on Catraxia in Guardians Volume 2. Thor whip hands over to the Grand Master and Topaz from Ragnarok.
Topaz, what do I always say? I love cake.
I love how Topaz is eating a whole slice of cake with her hand, and she's carrying that staff that she and the Grand Master used to melt his cousin Carlo. Jane only knows Thor by his connection to Norse mythology.
As in Thor, the Norse god of thunder?
I don't know anything about horse gods, but I do know how to bring the thunder.
Actually, one of Thor's successors as the God of Thunder is Beta Ray Bill, a Corbinite with a horse face. As Jane asks Thor about Icarus, I love this drunk off-screen hype man in this episode.
The astro anomaly that preceded it happened
Don't
again
drink too much.
tonight.
Or too little.
Hey, Thunderboy.
There's more great off-screen drunkenness when Thor reminds Fandral of waking up next to a baby goat.
I named him Gary.
Yeah, you did.
The party rages on with the Grandmaster DJing, just like we saw him do in Ragnarok. Now, the music we hear is actually a remixed version of the Grandmaster's birthday theme from that movie. Topaz stands behind him, just lightly bobbing her hand. And then, of course, Thor does Zemo's dance move. Nebula shows up at the craps table, getting Korg to blow on her dice.
Mama needs a brand new eye.
Referring to the one Thanos probably pulled out of her after she lost a sparring match to her sister. Drax and Valkyrie join Lady Sif at the bar. Thor and Jane get matching tattoos. She gets a Mjolnir magic one. He gets a microscope science one, a reference to his line in the movie.
Your ancestors called it magic, and you call it science. Well, I come from a place where they're one and the same thing.
But I love how while Jane's skin is still pink and raw and irritated, Thor's tough as nails skin is already healed from the needle. Though as an Asgardian, the needle should be able to puncture his skin, so maybe it's just a decal. And by the way, if you stream or podcast, or if you want to start doing that, the HyperX Quadcast is the ideal standalone microphone for you. The Quadcast comes with anti-vibration shock mount to reduce the rumbles of daily life and a built-in pop filter to muffle pesky plosives. The LED indicator lets you know your mic status. If it's lit, it's live. You can also tap to mute to avoid those awkward broadcasting moments, like when someone is about to yell, if it's lit, it's live. It's got 4 selectable polar patterns, which allow you to switch from settings suited to streaming or music or an interview instantaneously. It's got a convenient gain control dial to quickly adjust your mic input sensitivity. The Quadcast S model has cool RGB lighting and dynamic effects that are customizable through HyperX Ingenuity software. It's super easy to use and a great looking mic that also really ups your work Zoom game. The Quadcast family is compatible with PC, PS5, PS4, and Mac, as well as major streaming platforms like OBS Studio and XSplit, so you will sound great to anyone tuning in. So head to hyperx.gg/newrockstars or use the link in this video's description to grab yourself a HyperX Quadcast mic and start sounding and looking better. They wake up hungover, like the scene in The Hangover. There's wild animals in the hotel room, Fangirl snugging with some possums, and Rocket sleeps in the sink. But remember, Rocket is a character voiced by Bradley Cooper, who also woke up similar to this in that Hangover scene. In the mirror behind Rocket, someone wrote, V was here? Maybe for Valkyrie, who is seen partying with them in this episode, but it might also be Volstagg, and those hearts could have been drawn by Lady Sif because they wake up next to each other. Maybe they hooked up. As in Infinity War, Thor thinks Rocket is a rabbit.
Guys, look, there's a cute little rabbit in the sink.
Rabbit is correct and clearly the smartest among you.
Rabbit?
Brock Rumlow comes in with Maria Hill, now acting director of S.H.I.E.L.D. since Fury got incapacitated.
Hey, Spicoli, this might be your party, but this isn't your planet. Before someone gets hurt, I need ball cannons!
Yes, Spicoli is Sean Penn's character from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, another nickname after like Tony Stark is called Thor, Point Break, and Lebowski. Hill's helicarrier hovers over Vegas and is numbered 67. Fury's helicarrier in Avengers was numbered 64, and Coulson returns.
The party atmosphere seems to be spreading. Canada, Mongolia, even Pennsylvania Dutch country.
Based on those Mongolians we met in Loki, these folks must love to party. Hill uses Nick Fury's last resort Captain Marvel pager from Infinity War and Captain Marvel. Then in Paris, Thor takes a selfie with some sovereigns, including their leader, Aisha. Loki appears.
Where's that son of a witch, Thor Odin's son?
Yes, now a huge jacked frost giant like his father Laufey, and he has a big horned crown of ice. Again, it is interesting to see him grow like this when he's supposed to be the runt, but I suppose it was just Odin's Asgardian magic that caused Loki to take on those human flesh tones in his size. And of course he calls Thor son of a witch because friggin' it's a witch. As Captain Marvel arrives, France is just labeled in big letters on the continent. You can see Belgium and the Netherlands beyond. It's just a really silly animation choice that they use throughout the fight, something that you would see in Looney Tunes. Carol calls him White Snake like the 80s hairband, and Thor responds,
His name is Thor, with a T and an R and an O and an H, but not in that order.
Yeah, it sounds right to me, because Tro in this episode is very much a bro. Thor's off-screen hype man returns.
There's a Midgardian word for women like you. Party pooper! There, I said it.
Captain Marvel dodges Mjolnir, but it hammerangs back to hit her in the back of the head. Later in the fight, Carol learns to dodge it as it comes from behind, making her more like that badass she was in Endgame when Thor summoned Stormbreaker past her head. Thor dickishly dominoes Stonehenge, Eric Selvig's favorite place to streak, similar to how Clark Griswold does this in European Vacation. They slug it out. It's awesome to watch. Carol beams his head, and he levitates Mjolnir from one hand to the other in order to break her hold, and all this while some great electronic rock music plays, evoking the music composed for Ragnarok by Mark Mothersbaugh. Thor anchors her with Mjolnir, and the other partiers include a guy dressed in a Celestial-inspired costume like those we saw in Sakaar. Old Wrinklemouth on the right is one of those Sakaar gladiators, as well as that weird helmet dude on the left. And then, yeah, a few Skrulls point and mock Carol as the pooper. Kinda cold considering she saved a lot of their fellow refugees 16 years earlier. Maria Hill references Carol's Flurkin, Goose.
Your cat could devour whole armies. You've
got a cat? What's its name?
Goose.
Ooh, Top Gun! You're Maverick! Is your ego writing checks that your skills can't cash?
No.
Yes.
Calling back the line from Top Gun.
Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
And she says that she thought Carol would be a dude captain, referencing the fact that Captain Marvel was a male superhero originally. They discuss hitting Thor with a nuke-level blast.
It's not a bad idea, actually. The Mojave Desert could withstand the hit.
The Mojave Desert is where S.H.I.E.L.D. built Project Pegasus, which in Avengers, the Tesseract portal caused to implode in a huge crater. Just shows how they designed the space in case something like that might happen. Surtur, Clancy Brown returning to voice him, flirts with the Statue of Liberty, burns her arm off, and then the Frost Giants deface Mount Rushmore using the Casket of Ancient Winters. The party moves on to the Sydney Harbor Bridge, where Korg dances with a baby pacifier alongside some more familiar faces. Mantis, some Asgardian soldiers, one of those yellow sex bots from Contraxia, more Skrulls, Ravagers, and Sovereign. Valkyrie and Meek shows up. And then that strainer helmet dude is another runaway gladiator from Sakaar. Jane contacts Heimdall and finds Frigga, filling her in, but only between sips of Chardonnay.
It's Thor. He's in trouble. He's on Earth.
Carol knocks Thor to Siberia, where Hill and Rumlow prep to nuke them both, but Frigga intervenes.
What are you doing here? You must be using a lot of dark magic just to check in on me.
Yeah, dark magic or dark energy is what the Asgardians use to transport themselves without the Bifrost. As Loki mentioned in Avengers,
with the Bifrost gone, how much dark energy did the All-Father have to muster to conjure you here?
And as Heimdall said in his dying breaths,
let the dark magic flow through me one last time.
Loki apparently planned to use the St. Louis Arch as a giant slingshot. And then to the left of Yondu with the mask, that's another Sakaar gladiator from Ragnarok. They got all those guys in there, it's pretty cool. But everyone bounces.
Let's go, Topaz. We shall ride like the wind.
Please,
loser.
Wait.
And we're keeping the scoots.
Nebula refers to Thanos.
I think I hear my dad calling. Good luck.
But Thor uses Mjolnir to scare everyone into helping him out. You can see the disc on the top shows the same Norse runes on Mjolnir from the films, and these translate to, "He who wields this hammer commands the lightning and the storm." They fix Stonehenge and the St. Louis Arch, the Power Blackout, the Statue of Liberty, Mount Rushmore, and the Ferris wheel. And even though it wasn't their fault, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it's actually kind of similar to how evil Superman fixes this when he doesn't need to in Superman 3. Thor also scrubs Thor rocks off of a wall, and judging from the White House behind him, this must be the Washington Monument. So Thor tries to fool Frigga, but Mjolnir is covered in underwear and Mardi Gras beads and graffiti. Looks like it reads "Crazy Night" and "Driftin'" and "Hot Tea." And then there's a picture of someone bearded. This might be Thor from another time when he had that awesome beard. Thor schedules a date with Jane, and the Watcher tries to wrap things up.
Together, they lived happily ever after.
But he blinks. I know it's just a character blinking, but it does cause the gleam of his eyes to vanish briefly. I just think it's another example of how this Watcher's more human features make him less of an eternally seeing godly presence. Because if one can blink, one can miss things, even for the briefest moments. Which might be why, as he realizes this is actually a twist ending, he says,
"Wait, what?
Huh?
Yeah, normally the Watcher is the one to tell us when a dark ending is coming, but this time he is caught off guard as much as we are. I think this sets up the Watcher to finally intervene on a multiversal threat that he worries might even affect his own existence. That threat? An army of Ultron sentries coming from a portal led by Ultravision, armed with all 6 Infinity Stones. But since the Mind Stone is in Vision's head, it is the green Time Stone that is in his chest, the Time Stone being the penultimate stone that Thanos got before the Mind Stone. I love how all of these sentries are illuminated red, which in Age of Ultron was how we could tell which one drone contained Ultron's consciousness at any given moment, but this tells us that this Ultron can exist as all of them simultaneously, of course using his stones. This Ultron must have completed his original plan to transfer his consciousness into the synthezoid body with vibranium-infused tissue and the Mind Stone, which of course the Avengers converted into Vision using Jarvis AI. But in this universe, Tony Stark would not yet have the Mind Stone in order to launch his Ultron AI and create that problem to begin with, so this Ultravision must come from another universe, one where he might have used that divine knowledge from the Mind Stone to locate all the other stones before Thanos could, and then went on to conquer that reality, and then move from reality to conquer the multiverse. But this also means we are learning a new function of the 6 Infinity Stones combined, not just the ability to erase half of all life or all of life, but the ability to transcend realities as a Nexus being, which also also poses some terrifying implications for zombie Thanos, who also acquired all 6 stones. We know from trailer footage that Party Thor will join a team of Black Widow, Captain Carter, Strange Supreme, and others as they fight Ultron sentries, and there was a clip of Party Thor telling Strange,
"Zombies, great idea!"
making me wonder if the Watcher's next move will be to assemble these misfit toys into a team to play these 2 Nexus threats to the multiverse, ones that he did not see coming until now, against each other. You can support New Rockstars by checking out our great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com, like this awesome What If shirt. Get one of these, you can write in a custom shout out for our What If After Show. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow and subscribe to New Rockstars. Thanks for watching, bye.